when you are talking to your friends about faith, Christianity, the Bible, whatever, is that part of where this question comes from? Is like, am I approaching this correctly, or are they approaching this correctly? Or how do we actually talk as friends about something that seems like a really big deal and maybe don't agree? I'm just curious.
Okay. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm realizing that a lot of my fears come from like online, which is so silly, and I shouldn't let that get the best of me because it's like social media. It's like people having accounts like spewing stuff out. I guess some of it is in real life, but I'm finding like now that I think about it, most of it's probably coming from online, like social media.
I think most of mine is just trying to find security in the fact that not everyone's going to interpret it the same way I am, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm wrong or that I'm a bad Christian or I haven't studied the Bible enough. I don't have a very big circle of people that I can like talk about the Bible with and talk about what I think or what questions I have if I need any help. But when I do find those people, I don't want to come across as a complete idiot, you know?
I think that's completely fair. Kevin, I agree with you. I think social media and onlineness, we're just making up words, guys. The onlineness of our culture has added an element of permanence, that if we say something dumb there, it is always there. And I think a lot of your lives have been based around, well, if I screw up, it is always there. And it's always going to follow me. And I think that makes it tricky. That's why things like this are great, even though we're recording it, that we're able to have like honest conversations. But I think it's really important to find places where you can do that and practice talking about your faith, so that when you find yourself in situations where you can engage with people, not necessarily fight people, but just engage with people in conversation, you feel equipped to do that, which I think is really important and not something we as the church have done well throughout history, especially in recent history.
All the research behind social media is it makes your life worse. All of the research about social media is it makes your life worse, okay? Particularly if you're on it more than 1 hour a day. I think it's important if you're going to be a part of social media. I have a Facebook account that I don't get off on too often. I have these things that it's a reality of our life as well. It's the only way you're going to keep up with some people. But I think it is important that you put boundaries on what social media is going to do in your life. I would encourage you to not allow it to shape your belief system. And here's the reason why. It's the same reason we read the Bible and meditate on it, is for a relationship with God. Social media, we have learned, does not foster relationship. And it's only in relationships that you actually grow. So it's important as you approach social media that you do it with a grain of salt and understand what it is, and not allow it to be something that shapes who you are in your belief system as best as you can. That's all I wanted to say.
I agree with Kevin. Like social media, whenever I go on social media for too long, I end up finding or like stumbling upon, I guess, people who do the exact same thing as me, like what I want to do, except they like do it better. I always compare myself to them, and it just ends up making me like a worse person, because I always am like, oh, okay, I have to do this now, and then I'll like be the best or whatever. So social media just ends up, if I'm on it too long, for me, comparing myself to other people. And then once I do that, it changes my whole like life, like the way I live. And then eventually I'll like just forget it, or like give up, because I know it's not me, and I'm me, not those other people. But it always does have an effect on me for like the rest of the day or rest of the week, because I never think I'm good enough. To what Kerrigan said about like feeling stupid, or not necessarily feeling stupid, but like not like you feel like what you're saying is wrong, or like your interpretation is wrong. I often do feel like that. I mean, my friends they don't say that I'm wrong, but the stuff they say always makes me feel, and they don't mean it, but it always makes me feel like my interpretation is wrong because I never see it in that way, or I feel like they have a deeper meaning than me. I think the thing I have to remember for social media is that I'm me and I don't need to be comparing myself to other people because God is happy with me. Like He accepts me for who I am. And I don't have to be those other people to be accepted by God. Relating to the like feeling wrong about my interpretations is everyone has their own interpretation. And when you share your interpretations, it's first of all like not an argument. You guys don't argue which interpretation is better. And then second of all, getting those new interpretations gives you a new point of view, like we've already talked about on everything. And usually it ends up helping me grow in my faith, is what happens whenever
Yeah,
I talk about it.
that's awesome, Eli. And you know, as you were saying that, it was funny about the comparisons. My first thought was, do you know the first time that someone compared themselves to someone else in the Bible? I realized the story I was going to use was actually the second time that someone compared themselves. The first time was when Adam saw Eve, and he was like, "Whoa, um, I like that better." And so, you know, that was a good comparison. Um, the next comparison though was Cain and Abel. And again, when you choose to be the God of your own life and start comparing to other people, you know, that also led to the first murder. You know, just in doing that. And so when you think about, again, social media and cancel culture is the exact opposite of the gospel of Jesus Christ. You said something and are no longer redeemable. That is the opposite of the story of the Bible. And we have to know that, because no one's going to say that. No one's going to say, hey, you want to see the opposite of the story of Jesus? Cancel culture. You know, that's not how it works. But as you grow in your interpretation of the grand story, you'll begin to be able to see when things like that are playing out, you know, in your life, and learn to remove yourselves. It's not your job to convince everyone in the world of the truth. It's your job to love people
There
and
it
allow
is.
the Holy Spirit to work on them. And then when they ask you, hey, why do you act the way that you do? Why do you do the things that you do? Then that gives you the opportunity to say, you know what? That's going to take a while. Can we get a cup of coffee? Can we do something? But it gives you the opportunity then to say, I realized I couldn't do this on my own, and that God had a plan for me, and that this is how I get closer to Him, through Jesus and through His Word. And if you would like to join me on that journey, I would love to have you as someone that walks behind Jesus in learning this. Anytime someone drags you into saying, what do you believe? And you throw out a fact and then you start arguing about it, they didn't really want to know the truth anyway. Okay? And that happens on social media all the time. That's why it's better to live out the fruits of the Spirit in loving someone and being kind to someone, because ultimately everyone feels the same way that you guys do about social media. They feel worse about themselves the more time they spend on it. But if they see you acting differently and living differently, they'll want to know about that.
Social media is comparing everyone else's highlight reel to your everyday life. That's why you feel inadequate. You're looking at everybody's like trophy case and then looking at like your normal day. That's why it feels weird. And if you look at your social media, it's possible you're doing the same thing there too. So we're all doing it to each other. Technology is also really great at connecting people that are far away, and terrible at connecting people that are next to each other. So that's been really interesting during a pandemic, because it has allowed us to see each other when we might not. But it also hasn't helped our world get together very well during it. Just saying.